I'm Joe,
Hi, I'm Luke.
and this is What's on the Table.
Today we're going over some stories and stories of us being DMs, and we're also kind of touch on some subjects in the Dungeon Master Guide.
Trash.
It's not a book that me and him use very often. We use it as a very loose reference guide. We might use it for items, maybe sometimes.
It's honestly really dependent on what your campaign is, in my opinion. Like when we did the All of Your Allies Matter campaign, I had to go extensively into the Hirelings chapter.
You had fun with that one.
Because, oh my god, the hundreds of NPCs y'all ran into was ridiculous.
You know you loved it and enjoyed it.
Yeah. I also loved watching how sad y'all got when you watched them die.
Kyle was okay with that. Because he
Someone.
caused most of them.
See, and keep in mind, the campaign they're talking about, just Jimmy in the background. I'm letting y'all know, this campaign was my very first campaign in D&D.
And before the campaign even started, I told Jimmy to try and make as many allies and keep as many of them alive as possible.
Thank you, Joe. I had a wonderful time.
Here's 100 allies, and they're gone.
I saved a lot more than you thought I was going to be able to, due to some random luck and BS.
Yes.
It was rather impressive. Like the inventories of NPCs, I treat like your character sheets in a lot of ways. So when I end up like writing down my campaign, like, there's mini character sheets already on there.
Oh, yeah.
So like if y'all are like poke, murder hobo, I loot 'em, play out. At least I have this list
Of stuff.
How unfortunate this entire conversation I had panned out.
Hi, stab. And there goes
The quest
important-
giver. Thank you.
fucking murder hobos.
Murder hobos. As a DM, don't be mad if your group derails your campaign.
That's kind of part of the joy of it. And in my opinion, that's always been a joy because it kind of puts you on a spot. You have to find a way to make your story flow with it.
Now, fun little fact, I'll be interjecting here and there, just giving my little 2 cents. But one thing I will say, you see, it's very difficult for them to do that if you only loosely build your campaign. If you have a dedicated start, you have a well-developed end goal, but you leave everything else open, you don't have to worry about that.
Well, it was like
It's kind of how my very first campaign with Jimmy. I had a built-out story.
Oh God.
Because I was like, all right, I can force them to do this.
No, that's
no,
not
oh God,
how that
no.
works. They will kill people that you deemed way too important.
Because
Or in Luke's case, he builds characters that are so overpowered they make gods and like Leviathan ancient beings look like bitches because just so he can ex machina himself out of any situation.
I needed to with half of you guys.
I was not one of them.
I was not one.
I said half. I didn't say which half.
So like, you should never force your characters in your PCs into a path because they will. It's the red button syndrome. Don't hit the red button. Here is your path. Take it. All right, I'm going to go over here.
Why?
There's nothing over there. I've built nothing over there. That's unfortunate because now we're going over there.
I roll for search. What are you searching for? Walls.
Another
You're in a field.
Another fun interjection. You can generally get away with this. Sometimes you don't have to worry about that if you handpick players that you know won't do that kind of stuff. Who are they're more like they're going to be explored. They're going to be explorers, but not like I'm going to do everything I can to make the DM's life difficult. Because there are some players who will do that, which generally you shouldn't honestly you really shouldn't have let them in the group.
I'm not that person though. Like, I'm really not. If I'm not a DM, I tend to try and just be quiet and play my character. Now there have been moments. I'm not going to specify what campaigns, since you were part of that one.
I know. I know which one you're going for.
Where I just can't, because the person's not. They were too inexperienced and trying to do too much with too many people. Like, dude, you're picking favorites at the table, which no, absolutely not.
That's actually something I want to actually touch into. As someone who is a veteran DM, you have more DMing experience than even me and Luke combined.
I've been doing this since I was little.
One thing I want to ask a question for you: what do you, for someone who's starting off as a DM, how many players do you recommend? As in, like, a minimum versus and no more than so off.
I'll go with no more. I try to keep it below 6 or below, because then your hour-long campaign ends up becoming 6 hours because everybody's got to interject and communicate and tangent off into this crazy string map theory of insanity, all because an NPC's holding a chicken by the neck. It's
I told you he was in boss. We just started. We just started. He's a lich.
So with that also in mind, what do you recommend? What a good number to start off with if you're starting a campaign?
With myself, also, like counting myself at the table, I try to stick to 4 people, because then I can do one-on-ones. I don't have to write a million notes if somebody gets information that's vital. Mm-hmm. So it'd be like they ask to roll for search, they roll, they get it, and I slide a note.
Yeah. Because
they're the only ones that know. Only they have. Thieves can't. Only they can read what's on the wall.
So, which this is actually a very, very good information, because this is what my first campaign that I ran as a DM, I only had for D&D was I only had 3 people in my group, not including me. I had 3 PCs. And I found it very easy to keep a track of what they're doing, what's going on, who's doing what. And I kind of also open-ended a position where they kind of had to, they were from different groups in the city they lived in, but they had to kind of work together and make their own group. I kind of set up events that kind of led them to it, but not like like tunnel feeding them, but just kind of like little nudges here and there, gently pushing them to the right spots.
The campaign I introduced you to Dungeons and Dragons was the most chaotic campaign I've ever done.
That was a trip and a half right there.
It was a campaign based on my PCs running around and killing every single pantheon of God that ever existed, and gaining aspects and becoming gods themselves.
Poor Cthulhu.
We'll get into that later.
That'll be a different episode.
Okay. I had Jimmy, who was brand new to D&D. First campaign, I sat down one-on-one with him, built a character, and went, okay, cool. You're the figurehead.
He built me a Minotaur before it was an official race.
I built a lot of stuff for you guys.
I was like, even full. I was like, we worked around it as me being half human, half Minotaur. And that's why honestly, I was actually around the same size as the Minotaurs from the current D&D 5e modules.
You shouldn't, as a DM, I feel like there are 2 things that a lot of people mess up on when they start DMing. Is one, they restrict their players either they restrict their players too far, or they let them do too much. See, let's give everybody a bag of holding. That's not awful. I did that first off with you guys. Yeah. But y'all had to earn it by talking to an NPC.
And it also depends upon the campaign, because like if it's a campaign where you're not fighting gods, you're just doing normal kind of day-to-day stuff in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. I can't remember the name of the plane. It's called like Toro, I think. But yes. yeah. So in the world of Toro, well, Toro's the main one for it. Would Neverwinter in.
It's the Forgotten Realms.
Forgotten Realms, yeah, sorry. In the Forgotten Realms, you don't want them everyone has a bag of holding. That's a little...
See, I've always started my campaign with a bag of holding.
But your campaigns have always been like apocalyptic fighting god stuff.
But even
if you're not dealing with if your in game isn't fighting gods, I don't really think bag of holdings are necessary.
The first campaign I set up with you didn't have a bag of holding.
Yeah, that's fine.
You had your sack, and there were times when you would damage your sack and have to get it repaired.
Stuff
but little things like that make it interesting.
But I've always... This kind of gone off a tangent for a second.
You're fine. Continue.
My stories, I've always wanted them to pick up, just clear out a dungeon. That's why I usually give my players.
So it sounds like you are more. Your campaigns tend to be more combat driven.
Not always.
Well, I'm just saying like I'm saying more so. Not completely, but just more so.
They can be, but mine. I
feel
always
like
wanted creativity in mine.
hearing about the campaigns that I missed in the last 2 years with you guys, like Luke seems to be very the RPG open world video game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
Where
somehow this person is carrying 300 pounds of equipment and he's not dropping.
He's a halfling.
Like I feel like Luke's mentality is go to town, quest given, finish quest, go to town.
Not necessarily. Mine is town quest, somewhere go off rail, side quest, and just exploring. I've always my stories.
Okay. You've left that open for us, but it always ends up becoming what he just said. Town
quest. You guys start going like way. I'm like, no, come back this way. Don't go that way. You will die going that way.
No, that wasn't us at all. We were always like. We would ask questions against the stuff that you presented us.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine.
We didn't go way off the trail. We didn't do much exploring because we were trying to get our business done.
I feel like what he was saying earlier, like the ex machinas, like the overpowered NPCs, because you don't want your PC players to kill something. It's kind of like the campaign that I ran with you guys, where Kyle killed the quest giver, and I was like, oh. That's lovely. Fantastic. Easy punishment. Now y'all don't know where to go. Good job. You did great.
Well,
but y'all ended up getting the information that you required, just not from that guy.
Yeah. Which is funny. There were several instances where Kyle's character did things that kind of derailed us a bit. But then, and honestly enough, it was funny because a lot of my character and Luke's character were kind of not very. We didn't really trust Kyle's character, and our characters like never really got along. Like me and Luke's character got along, but Kyle's character never got along with us until like one of the last sessions we had, where he just did exactly what I needed him to do and what I wanted him to do, and it worked out perfectly. We killed a guy we wanted dead without even doing it in a way where we lost allies. We did it in a way we were able to pull it off in such a way where we didn't lose allies. We kept most of our people, and we wrote off an eventual like enemy character real quick.
Now don't get me wrong. I do catch myself doing ex machinas, but not at my NPCs. I end up doing it at the table at the PCs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit! You're at 1. You're gonna fail.
This became a 2 all of a sudden.
Oh no!
It's not 1. The main villain missed. And that's something I actually want to ask you. So when it comes to, I think it's one of the reasons why a screen is so important, because it can allow the DM to fudge his roles for the betterment of the campaign.
It depends on the DM. Like you saw me, I never use a screen.
Yeah.
If I roll it and it hits a nat 20 and it's a shot that's going to kill the group, I'm going to go. We have 2 options.
Yeah.
Either everybody accepts the roll and you all die, or we forget that roll happened and we work it out.
I actually remember one time every now and then you would roll, if it was an important roll, you'd kind of cover it up and you would just kind of roll it there and just look at it and go, as if you were playing like
poker.
Like poker. Like, you're playing like Texas Hold'em. You're just looking at it like He misses.
And you move your hand to 20. He's like,
no. He just scoops it. He was just scooping it up like.
Yeah, it's as simple as like it rolls a 20 and I'm like this, and you just scoop it off the table.
Yeah.
Because now I can do this or anything and just throw it on.
Which is one of the reasons why I always recommend. You don't have to have one, but I really recommend it because it does allow you
the anonymity.
Yeah, because as a DM, the main goal should be storytelling, correct?
Yes. In my honest opinion, I don't know how many times I told you guys don't roll. Like y'all, I'm like, okay, explain what you're doing.
Alright.
Everybody okay with that? Cool. Don't roll. That's what happens. Why? Because at the end of the day, y'all want to leave the table happy. Y'all want to
Feeling
leave
good.
the table feeling like y'all accomplished something.
Unless you have some awesome plot twist to mess with your characters.
And then,
That's
like,
a whole nother story.
We'll get to that later. We'll get into plot. There'll be another episode, plot twist.
Yeah.
the biggest issue that I ever had working with the table with you guys was that there's always one black sheep.
Mm-hmm.
You worked really well with me. You worked really well with me, especially it being your first campaign. You'd ask questions and soak in knowledge, and then we had other players that would just. Now there were moments where those other players would do things that I did not expect, like saving Hoblin. Which
there was also lots of I did that was unexpected. I saved an NPC that was supposed to die like 4 different times. Joe was like, this guy's supposed to die. Six sessions ago. Jimmy keeps saving him, and now he's one of the main characters. He's one of the main NPCs now.
Well,
yeah, Fowler. That was his name. We couldn't remember it the other day, but
Yeah, I just not remember.
Yeah,
Fowler.
Fowler.
he was supposed to be the first god y'all got the aspect of. Because
Instead,
he was in human form, and y'all ended up ascending him back to godhood.
It was great.
And he was not happy.
No, he was happy.
No, that
No,
was the
Joe
whole
wasn't happy.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm
Fowler
saying.
was.
Joe was not
Fowler
happy.
was very happy.
Fowler's like,
Woo! I'm free, and y'all are like, yeah.
I got
Wow.
I got a god. I got a dragon god who was xenophobic to anything but humans, and I made him so happy he hugged my minotaur.
which was funny.
There are moments when a player will just completely blow you out of the water. Either they'll completely destroy your campaign, causing the final boss to be null and void. They'll become the final boss. I've seen that. They just do things that you don't expect. That's the point of the game. That's why everything is random, sometimes not random.
Like-
The reason I don't like the straightforward path, I'd rather have like, this is the random encounter that's happening while y'all are traveling.
Yeah.
Is because y'all saw me. I'd look at my notebook, I'd roll a die, and go, all right, y'all get to face the futuristic dwarves.
I'm still mad about that.
You're limiting yourself as a DM if all you can look at is this book. I had a Pathfinder DM, a Lord of the Rings, what are they called?
Lore masters.
And myself all at a table, and then I still went and looked at Warhammer and the Star Wars tabletop and realized that if it uses the same die, you can convert anything from that tabletop to your tabletop.
And see, I think that makes a good DM, is you're able to take from separate stories, like Warhammer or Star Wars, and find a way
Or
to...
even separate, entirely different
Yeah,
systems,
that's-
yes.
Yeah, and find a way to
Work 'em in.
put it into
I mean,
a D&D story and make it work.
Now, keep in mind, this is for something that this is not something we recommend for a
No.
newer DM
No,
to do.
do not do
No.
that. Because you'll write
That's a
a
bit-
book.
This is one of
very-
those things where you have to sit down and you have to. I took weeks doing things like this.
Also, if you have a local game store that has people who do D&D, go and talk to them, especially their DM. Go see what they advise. If you're trying to become a DM yourself, jumping into it, definitely talk to someone who has experience into it, because the more often or not, they'll be able to help you with very invaluable knowledge.
Even something I recommend doing. I've had new people come and do this with me and sit down at a table and watch how I DM. Yeah, I've had people do that, and I actually find it enjoyable, because they'll sit, watch over my shoulder, and ask, "Why are you doing this? How are you doing this? What are you doing for your characters?"
That campaign that you're about to join, Devon's.
Yeah.
I'm going to be. I've dropped out of it because I'm now going to be a co-DM for
Yeah.
that campaign. That way, because he's still relatively new to.
Yeah.
He's brand
And
new DMing. So
And that's a good thing. I recommend a new DM have a co-DM.
If you're a new DM, don't make yourself a player character. Make your player character that you're thinking of the quest giver.
Yeah.
He could die. It doesn't matter. You're the DM. You're not there to play the game. You're there to make them see your story.
Yeah.
I did that with my first campaign I did by myself. I made a character. I made a full sheet, made her a full character, but she would come in every now and then and join their quest. If I knew the quest was going to be particularly difficult, because the group was Eldritch Knight Fighter, Circle of Spores Druid, and Rogue Assassin. Tell me how much healing is in that group.
There's none.
The druid has a little bit, but he's mostly focusing on being Spore Master.
Yeah.
Well, he's Spore Master. He's not focusing on healing stuff. He's being a Spore Druid, so he doesn't even take a wild shape. He's about doing necrotic and poison damage. So every now and then I had this cleric NPC who fit into the world beautifully. She would occasionally help and join them in certain things when her path crossed theirs on particularly dangerous missions. Which my second session, she became invaluable, as the whole party would have wiped if it weren't for her.
See, now...
Remember, guys, in 5th edition, clerics are overpowered.
They are. See, I don't...
We can have a whole... We need to have a whole session just us talking about clerics.
We are called the Amens.
No, the Amen. It's just the Amen.
But, out of my own opinion, I don't mind a DM making their own character, being a part of the story, as long as that DM doesn't favor that character.
Oh yeah,
I don't mind that
the
at
character
all.
has to be expendable.
Yeah, well, even
Anything the DM makes should, at some point or another, be expendable, like to an extent, like within reason.
kind of like your Lord of the Rings campaign, the one that died in that big war.
I had several people die in that
No,
war.
he was a main character, Dustin's mentor.
Oh yeah, I know. I killed off. Okay, so
You know who I'm talking
I did a
about.
Lord of the Rings campaign where I ended up. I had our friend Dustin, who I was making out to be pretty much the main character, because it fit the way the story fit. It made sense, and I had him find out his father died, and then he had to fight the corrupted spirit of his father.
Which, that was fun.
Then he eventually found a guy who I accidentally gave him the same name of his father. I gave him the same name. This guy becomes his mentor. I then kill him off in a very brutal way. And so then he ends up finding an orphan kid, which the kid's fine. But I end up deciding, as a cruel joke of irony, I decided to name the kid after the mentor and the father. I named the kid, so he's like, just to mess with him, he's like, no, the kid's gonna die. It's not gonna. But the death of both him having to kill his father's corrupted spirit, and then watching another father figure die in a brutal way, it really pushed and built his character. It pushed his mental abilities to the limits, and it really helped create a very interesting dynamic and a lot of character development.
See, that's how a DM's character should be. It should be someone who pushes players. If that person dies, it should help push them farther into the story.
Yes. Creating a moment of where the player now a point of separation where their path now branches. Like, what's going to happen? Is this character going to break down and become a worthless piece of the party? Is he going to snap? Is he going to rise above and push through and become the leader of the party? Is he going to snap and betray the party and become the new bad guy? I mean, it can go multiple ways, but it is fascinating what you can do as a DM to help push your characters.
I mean, I had not pushed a table as far as I had pushed you guys. Watching y'all literally...
You killed off so many of my characters' friends. You killed off so many of them.
Y'all would scream at the top of your lungs at each other because somebody would mess up and get somebody killed. And people were breaking down because NPCs that y'all barely knew. Because
you killed off my character's wife within like the 3rd session.
That was brutal.
I was so like, as my character was just completely he was the very last bits of willpower to keeping him moving, but he was about to break.
I killed.
Thank God for that Sphinx.
The one thing that I wanted to do the most was to make sure that my players felt that it wasn't just...
Yeah, you did a good job at that.
It wasn't just a name on a piece of paper. It wasn't something that y'all would
brush away.
brush off and then continue to play your characters that way. It was just like the mass argument where it almost looked like y'all were about to start fist fighting when I had y'all's quest giver kill his own wife.
I was the only rational person on that moment. The rest of the table was about to. It was about to be a
Y'all were
party
about to
split.
throw
It was about to be a
down.
party split, not both in game and in real life. Party split. It was. I was.
It was bad.
Because again, I tend to keep 3 people at the table. It was Jimmy, Luke, me, and another person. And it came down to the character that I had created. They were in a tower. He ran into his revived undead wife. And
Not a good day. Not a good day.
No, it was a very bad day.
and slaughtered her in front of everybody. The
Other player was like,
the other
"This
player
is not
was like,
cool."
hell no, and came at the quest giver. While Luke's character was
like,
ready
"What
to
the hell's-"
throw down.
Luke's character was like, "What the hell's going on? I don't know what's happening, but I'm gonna fight."
But
And then my character was the only one to go, "Oh no! Bard powers activate. Bardic powers. Listen, guys, we don't need to fight.
but
Persuade everyone."
And it's all about the information you give them, because all they got from that situation was, by mercy I release you, and then he kills his own wife. That's
Everyone
that's
reacted
how
differently.
they interpret it now.
yeah,
They don't know she's his wife. They don't know what is going on. All they know is that they see a lady sitting there, and this dude that they just met
Nukes her.
incinerates her in front of their eyes.
and we're just like,
It was a very interesting thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, another thing I want to kind of ask. Another thing I want to ask is when it comes to DMing. So, fun fact: in my first campaign, I didn't have the DM's guide till about halfway through my campaign, which ended up kind of being. For the most part, I didn't honestly need it, except for one little tiny problem. I overpowered weapons way too much, which and like not where like they had broken abilities, but no, it's just the damage they inflicted was absolutely insane. I'm not going to get into how much I messed that up, but if I had the DM's guide, I would have known. Oh, as I started dividing, you're gonna have this custom made weapon. Let's see. Oh, no, that's what I want to do with it. And oh no, that's way too powerful.
see,
So my question is, do you if someone's starting as a DM, do you recommend this book?
yes, greatly. I recommend it. It should be your first couple of times being a DM. I think you should go by the book so you can learn.
I'm going to be the other side of the coin on that, because when I started DMing, I learned through somebody who was very, it's the rules and that's it, and that tends to really take away from a campaign.
No, I'm not saying
Because you're like, yeah, you're sitting there like, all right, so I don't get to have the character I want
yeah.
because something is underpowered or overpowered. Doesn't mean, like, I've seen players kill the final boss first session and go,
Oh, that was easy.
that was a lot of 20s. I'm impressed. Here's your OP weapon. Now I gotta write more.
So I'm gonna be the kind of the middleman here. So you highly recommend it. You're kind of you're not against it, but you're kind of like, hold on here.
I feel like you should dip your fingers into it when you have questions.
So that's what I'm gonna gotta get into. So my personal opinions on the Dungeon Master's Guide is a great resource and is a great reference point.
Yeah.
And even the Dungeon Master's Guide, one of the first pages, it says this is used just for reference. You do not have to go by the book. This is to help you world build. And actually, that's the one thing I do love about the Dungeon Master's Guide. If you're not used to world building, if you're new to that, this is an invaluable resource when it comes to world building. As you said, when you were building all the NPCs, the allies and stuff, this book was invaluable in that manner.
Yeah.
And so that's my gist. I highly recommend getting the book, but remember, it's a guide, it's a resource, but it's not the end all be all of what your campaign can be.
Yeah. Like I was saying, I say your first DM story, it should be through the book, but don't let it, as your next ones you do, don't let it be what you only go by.
Yeah, it's a good introduction.
Yeah.
That's
So that's kind of everything. Kind of want to go over today about this. We'll do more D&D stuff. We'll do more Magic. We'll start talking about other things. Maybe next time we'll talk about Lord of the Rings, a game that these two are know a little bit about, the Lord of the Rings tabletop game. But I am the pretty much the most knowledgeable person in the state about.
That's an understatement.
Well, it's no one plays it in the state, so I'm by default the most knowledgeable. All right, so yeah, I'm Jimmy here, cameraman today.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Luke.
And this was What's on the Table. Can't wait to see you at our table again.
See ya.